I welcome all my viewers on this unique platform that is Education Pe Charcha on VidyaDaan. You all know this is in fact going to be the 5th session, and as we already promised, we just gave you our commitment that we are going to educate all the students community, by inviting our distinguished guests from myriad fields. And consequently, we already invited 5 distinguished academicians and the corporate leader. And today, and of course, in the very previous session, we had invited from Stock Exchange, that is Mr. Sri Thakurji, for discussing on Stock Exchange. Today, it is also a unique session. I would like to dub it as a spectacular session because we have invited one of the topmost IAS officers of this country, Dr. Sri Jagdeep Narayan Singh, who is, means the acronym or the abbreviate Dr. J.N. Singh, who has been not only a very successful IAS officers, as I already told you, that one of the best IAS officers of all time, but most importantly, he basically has been the longest serving Chief Secretary of Gujarat. Gujarat, and especially during that particular time when Gujarat was showcased as a role model for the entire country, when our Honorable Prime Minister, pitchforked himself onto the national and the international map by virtue of showcasing the glory of Gujarat. And Dr. Sri J.N. Singh, in fact, played a pivotal role in shaping the destiny of the state of Gujarat by presiding over its bureaucratic state in the capacity of the then Chief Secretary. And most importantly, I would like to inform all my viewers, because I am an author of the Living Legends of Mithila. And I would like to show you the picture, Living Legends of Mithila. This is very, very important. You can see Dr. Sri J.N. Singh, sir, here you can see that he basically, I have had the privilege of profiling him in my famous, I say it is a pioneer book on living legends in the world. And the Living Legends of Mithila, wherein I have had the privilege of figuring Dr. Sri J.N. Singh as one of our luminaries who have, who has had, as beg your pardon, so much accomplishments to his credit. The unique feature that I have come to appreciate of Dr. J.N. Singh, and if I don't share with all my viewers, possibly I would not be able to do justice to today's spectacular showcasing of one of the topmost bureaucrats of this country, that is bureaucrat of bureaucrats. He is the equivalent of Mahendra Singh Dhoni in the field of bureaucracy. I would like to tell you, all my viewers, I would like to say to all my viewers that he is the rarest of rare species so far as, possessing a cool temperament is concerned. Never ever I saw him, even little tense or expressing any angst while in course of his public dealing, while in course of his interaction with the myriad stakeholders of the society. And here it becomes very much important for me to quote the few lines, the stanzas from Century of Verses, one of the greatest the works of great Adi Shankaracharya, when great Adi Shankaracharya had spoken about the identity of the human being, when he says, and I'm just quoting great Adi Shankaracharya, mind nor intellect nor ego feeling, sky nor earth nor metal am I am he, blessed spirit I am he. That is egolessness. Here great Shankara talks about human being, us, as nothing but an embodiment of ego. And the man, to my perception, to my observation, who has transcended this particular limit of the state of ego is none but Dr. J.N. Singh. That is what I have seen, a man sans ego. No, it is rarest of rare situation, I would say, rarest of rare species. I would like to say something about sir before I invite him to come and to share stage with all of us. Dr. J.N. Singh secured 4th rank in Bihar in 1973 in matriculation examination. He topped ISC and with record-breaking numbers. But despite all that, it is a very important incident. By way of anecdotal, I would like to share with all of you, which I have had the privilege of incorporating in my book, The Living Legends of Mithila, that sirs, next means earlier 2 or 3 generations, they were already qualified people. His great grandfather was an advocate. His grandfather was a doctor. His father himself was a PhD holder as well as an LLB. So, there was some sort of discussion that, since he has already had so many illustrious people, means from all different professions, he should go for civil service. He should go for IAS. And therefore, after, even though qualifying ISC with the bumper marks, with the record-breaking marks, he decided to switch over to BA. And there he became an object of ridicule from teachers and students community, because as the perception went that only the failures in science took to arts. But that was not the case with Dr. Jayan Singh. But nevertheless, he negotiated with all sort of barbs being thrown at him, and he took to BA, where also he came out with distinction, and then joined JNU. And in the international, he pursued international relations, and even in international relations, he excelled in JNU. He became the topper in in international relations also, secured 53rd rank in civil services in IAS, joined Gujarat cadre because there was no vacancy in Bihar, and joined Gujarat, worked very closely with Honorable Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi ji, by way of his first stint from 2000 to 2005, and the second stint 2013 to 2014. He closely worked with Honorable Prime Minister, and most importantly, as it's already there inscribed in the poster, I would like to once again remind my viewers that Dr. Jayan Singh sir, has been the head of the committee constituted for overseeing the construction of Statue of Unity, of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, one of the greatest patriots of this country, who actually was who played a pivotal part, who was instrumental behind reuniting India as we see, or as it is manifest today. So basically, with all these and so many things we are going to discuss today, I would like to invite Dr. Sri Jayan Singh ji now, sir, for a very important discussion with him. So now I invite you for a discussion, and it is my for my first question to you, sir, that how were your days in JNU, and what sort of benefits you claim to have derived from your alma mater. Now it is your take, sir. I invite Dr. Jayan Singh ji, one of the best IAS officers, as I already described, to come on stage, to come before all of us, to share his vision, his mind, his past experience, his career as a very, very successful IAS officer. Sir, your take on this.
Thank you, Vivekanand. JNU these days has come under good amount of public scrutiny, at times public criticism also. But after coming from Patna University, I mean, of course, Patna University is also one of the renowned universities in the country and a very well-known university. But JNU sort of opened my mind to lots of ideas, fresh ideas. I mean, ideas which I had not found anywhere, at least in my earlier studies. See, if I'm a history student, JNU not only tells us what is the nationalist school of history, it tells us what's the colonial school of history. I mean, the nationalist colonial school of history came first, Percival Smith and all, then the nationalist school, R.C. Mazumdar and all. Then again, there is a leftist economist school of thinking, then the subaltern. So you are taken across the various strands of thoughts, various strands of thinking, what is the various economic ideas behind anything. You don't have to be Marxist. You don't have to be Marxist to believe in all this. But certainly if your mind is open, you can look at the things from various perspectives. You are not reduced to a silo. I mean, you are not reduced to just a thinking person, non-thinking person, just cramming from some book. But then you can have certain independent thinking and you are able to learn. For example, in international studies, I was looking at what Russia was thinking at it, what USA was thinking about it, what is India's viewpoint, why did we go for NAM? And the professors there were very critical, at times critical of the Indian view, critical of the American view, critical of the Russian view. So that way it opens your mind, and it is a very, very good opening. I had never had such an experience. And then again, JNU, the libraries were open throughout. So if you have to study, whether for IAS or you pursue in academics, and people have done both, there have been excellent academics and there have been excellent people who have gone in the services and all. One of our ministers, Nirmala Sitharaman, he was my contemporary, maybe 1 or 2 years junior or senior. She was there. At the same time, Avijit Banerjee, the Nobel laureate, he was also there in my batch. I mean, in my batch in economics. So whether you want to go academics or you want to go in politics or you want to go in civil services. For example, I went to civil services. Mr. Amitabh Kant, who is in uh, Niti Ayog, he was in JNU. So it is open up to all sorts of things. You can study, but at the same time, if you want, you can pursue politics. And people have pursued politics with good amount of enthusiasm, not the street politics only, but politics with thought. Kanhaiya Kumar is a JNU student. Prakash Karat, I mean, the present CPIM president, Sitaram Yechuri, he is again a JNU president. Digvijay Singh, one of our ministers. So they are all various strands of JNU, and JNU, more than anything else, it opens up your mind. It gives you a education which allows you to look at things from various angles. And that's what it is. That's what JNU gave it to me. And I really credit JNU for making my mind open and making me uh, have different strands of thought. As Mahatma Gandhi said, open your windows, have different winds blow to you. So that's what JNU did to me. Thank you.
So, sir, in hindsight, you attribute some sort of credit to your qualifying in civil service, or having such an outstanding career as a civil servant. What sort of means you attribute your success to what extent to JNU's grooming you, JNU's orientation. So your take on this, sir.
Uh, Apart from studies, every year from JNU, from batches senior to you and otherwise from the batches seniors and others, there used to be a good number of students coming into the civil services. So one can feel that if so and so has done it and he's at the say top 5% or top 10% of the batch, and if I'm also like that, then I can also get in. So it gives you a good amount of confidence into taking the civil services exam. So not only studies, you are also interacting with your friends, you are also interacting with contemporaries who have done past civil service exams or are taking the exam. So it's a very good atmosphere which is created there, an atmosphere of studies, an atmosphere of competitive studies, competitive exams. And that way it is highly, highly helpful for anybody who has chosen a career, who would like to go for civil services or who would like to go for any other competitive exams. So it opens you up for competition and it provides you the various inputs for that. And the teachers, they are excellent. The books, you can get the best available books there. The library is wonderful. I was that time also itself, I was reading, I was an international studies student. I was reading International Herald Tribune, which was the New York Times and Washington Post both put together. So International Herald Tribune, you could get nowhere else. I mean, of course, it was coming a day late, but then we did not have that time the internet facility that you could read from internet the present NYT or Washington Post or Economist, which one is able to do this. Those days that were not available, but JNU Library did provide us that. So you are getting books, you are getting the best quality teachers, you are interacting with your students, equivalent students, the competitive spirit is there, and also you are knowing what type of students get into it. So it boosts up your confidence that yes, if I do it properly, I'll also get it. So a very big amount of my success, I would say, goes to JNU.
Sir, many of the students or other civil service aspirants are watching this particular program, or eventually they'll watch this program. So on the basis of your own experience, how many hours, study preparation you think is sine qua non for qualifying in civil service, and what sort of comprehensive preparation one should take? Your take on this, sir, by way of some sort of guidance to the students who are preparing for civil service.
Vivekanand ji, sky is the limit. Sky is the limit. There is no holds barred, because see, more than lakhs of students are appearing at it. What can distinguish you? God has given you a particular amount of brain. So, I mean, that is God gifted. You cannot improve on that, your intellect and all that is there. So the thing you can do is to study it thoroughly, study, put maximum hours, try to internalize the thing that you have studied. So other than your normal routine, your sleeping, eating, your washing and other your daily habits, and other than that, whatever time is available, you must study. There are no holds barred. There cannot be that I'm going to study for 8 hours, 10 hours, and beyond that I cannot do. No, there cannot be anything. But at times, yes, if the mind gets too much sort of enervated in a way, if it's too much of study, hard study, you are reading a new thing, and after some time you get tired, mentally tired, not physically, mentally tired, then you can try to read something. I used to read, as a matter of thing, Chanda Mama magazine used to come at our times. So it used to deal with small studies. Small tales of Betal and others, it used to be there. So I used to read that because it's not taxing. It is just that it diverts your mind for some time. It's not something like a mystery story about which you can go and think about it 10 times as to what. It does not divert your mind, but it just sort of calms your mind. It soothes your mind. But other than that, Vivekanandji, you have to study. And ever since, in my case, ever since I decided that despite topping into the intermediate science, that was, it was 12 plus 1 actually, equivalent to the present time. Once I decided from after ISC to BA, my goal was very clear. I had burnt my boats in a way. I had burnt my boats. I could not go for medical. The only way out for me was to go for the IAS. And if I could not go, then I was nowhere. So literally any time available to me, I had to study. And fortunately, because my parents, my grandparents, they were all my great grandparents, they all had educational background, they all had some intellectual capacity, intellectual background, so everybody pushed me for it. I was first in my family to go for the civil services, and not many people in my family had gone for this type of thing. But yes, with their encouragement, and everybody pushed me towards it. My father said that you can buy any number of books you buy, don't worry about the cost and all. And I did buy many books which in retrospect I was not able to study. But yes, if you buy 10 books, then at least 3 books you find that it will be worthwhile. And nowadays the students are very much privileged that any number of books practically free of cost they can download. And if at all they have money, then from Amazon and all, no books are not available. That time it used to be that so and so books, it is not available, it is out of print. So we used to rush for those books as to whether how will you do it, how will you read that, and try to get from some second-hand bookshop and all. Those things are not there. For the present day students, all the books are available. If it's not, you can not download free, then you can always buy it from Amazon.com and other places. So you have to study. If everything is available to you on a platter, then why not? I'll tell you that even for my PhD studies, I completed my PhD in early 90s. So that time also, it was a tough thing trying to get books. My study was in interest groups, so I had to get books from Amazon and other places. So one of the major things in trying to sit for those exams or try to appear for PhD is getting books, getting source material. That used to be said, getting source material. But these days, the source material thing is not important. You are able to get it. So what basically should drive the student, all the students, my only thing to be that study as much as you can. There are no holds barred. Since everybody is studying, this is one thing you can do, but study thoroughly, study with very clear cut interest. And my another thing would be that try to finish one round of your entire study at least 1 year before the exams. And then you do at least 2 more rounds of revision, so that by the time when you are appearing for the exam, everything should be one after another. You should remember each and every word which you have written in your notes. So it should come to you just like as if you have closed your eyes and those things are before you. So there is no question of remembering over there. It should be as good as available to you. So when they cheat, they take the paper along with that. So it should be, or mentally everything should be, the entire course, the entire syllabus should be before you, and you should be able to analyze it properly during the exam. When you are sticking the exam. So 2 revisions before that has to be there, so that everything appears to you very, very thoroughly.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. All the students of civil services, IAS aspirants must have heard what sir has, the light that sir has thrown as to how the preparation, a comprehensive preparation in a very holistic manner can be undertaken. Because as sir has very correctly said, lakhs of the candidates are going to take this examination. So therefore, competition is very tough, but still a rational, a reasonable preparation has to be done, and sir has given an adequate light on it. So, now, I would like to know, because you had a stint with Gujarat Industrial Development Corporation in the capacity of its managing director. So you contributed towards the development of infrastructure in Gujarat. And since I visited Gujarat so many times, I have had the pleasure of visiting your office, the Sardar Patel Bhavan, and parts of Gujarat. Really, infrastructure wise, I can vouch for it that Gujarat is, model can be showcased for the entire country. So, sir, in what way you contributed, and what you find the contrast between that of the infrastructural development in Gujarat and to the other laggard states of the union? Please, your take on this, sir.
See, Gujarat, there are certain things which are favoring Gujarat, certain things which are going against some of the states which you have laggard states and all. Gujarat has traditionally been a maritime trading state. So because of its maritime presence, it's on the coastal, it's being a coastal state. Therefore, it had been trading with Africa and Arab and all since time immemorial, even since the Indus Valley time. So people there had a trade spirit. They were able to trade. And if you look at it, some of the richest Indians right now, many of them are from Gujarat. So what has happened, because of their overall thing, this trading, this commercial mind, this industrial mind has come to the government also. And the government also has realized that for the industry to grow, to attract industries, what can government provide? Government has to provide the best available infrastructure. And if you provide the best available infrastructure, then only people will come. So what comes in infrastructure? You have to provide the best possible road connectivity. You have to provide the best possible internet connectivity, which is the recent thing. You have to provide power. Power should be at your fingertips. Should be there immediately available to anybody, and it should not be that, oh, there is a load shedding and all. So all these things, if you provide, then automatically the state gets a boost. And then again, the fourth thing which Gujarat, there is a problem in Gujarat, and which the present government is working very hard to provide, is to provide water. Water for industries, water for trade and business is again a must. So these 3 or 4 infrastructure things, if you provide, then the state will do tremendously well. And this has been the consistent effort of all the Gujarat administration ever since Gujarat separated from Maharashtra in the early 1960s. So ever since that, all the state governments have consistently tried to provide these infrastructure facilities: power, the best possible road, the airport connectivity, the communication, or the modern means of communication of internet, phone connectivity and all, water. So all these things the state have provided. Unfortunately, in many of our, the countries, the states in the eastern part of our country are not that proactive. They are certainly doing many of these things, but they are not that proactive, maybe because of the legacy of the past, which has, in a way, has made them involve themselves more into the internal affairs of the state, internal affairs of their own politics, rather than looking into these things in a significant way. So if you provide infrastructure, industry will come automatically. And this has been proved on a macro scale by China. See, look at the infrastructure thing that China is providing. Before that, even our country is not that great. Right now, for example, the Three Gorges Dam, about which we all know. And China is, again, for water and for hydroelectricity, it is trying to move water from the Yangtze-Kiang River, which is on the southern side, to the northern side, to Hongwo. To Beijing, and also water from Shanghai and below is going to go to the northern part to China, to Beijing, and even beyond that, and massive amount of infrastructure support. Look at China's, most of the connectivity, the global level, they are connected through fast trains to the airports, to the road, which before that Europe and USA also look like, now they are literally looking like primitive before China in the infrastructure. And in infrastructure, China has literally taken a lead. So that way, if you compare in infrastructure China with many of the parts, many of the other countries, I would not like to name them. Similarly, western part of India is comparing to the eastern part. Western and southern India is moving at a very rapid pace compared to some of the other parts of the country. And this as I have discussed with you earlier, this is going to be a major problem for national integration in the decades to come.
Sir, you have in fact hit the nail at the very right spot, because I read a few, I think few months back, I read a very important article wherein the GDP of southern part of India as well as the northern part of India, the very contrasting picture was shown, and it was predicted, as very correctly you have prophesied, that the very vast difference in the GDP between northern and southern part, that indeed is going to be chaotic. It is going to create a big hurdle in terms of national integration. And it is definitely going to be a daunting challenge for the government of India to ensure that the unity and sort of harmony, subsist in the society, because this GDP factor is going to be, indeed, it is going to be a thorn in the unity of the entire country. What you said, suddenly it cropped up in the mind.
See, Vivekanandji, at some point, so long as a single unified party is governing the entire country, it's not going to be a problem. Earlier it was Congress, right now it's BJP. So long as one party governs it. But just imagine, I mean, it's let's hope it does not happen. But as a devil's advocate, I'll just like to say that just imagine if regional parties are there in most of the states. What will happen? A Maharashtrian can very well ask that I'm giving the maximum amount of tax. A Gujarati, if it's by a regional party, the state is headed by a regional party, that I'm giving the maximum tax. A Tamil government may ask, I am giving the tax. Why should it go? My taxes, my people earning should go to the eastern part, or should go to those parts which have not contributed this much to the country's prosperity. So at some point, these questions may get asked. And before those questions asked, the task of the leadership, both civil as well as the bureaucratic leadership, the political leadership and the bureaucratic leadership, is to see, their task is to see, and this is the task which is going to come more and more in the coming decades, is to see that this type of regional disparity should not remain. And we have to motivate people. We have to bring them to the level of other parts of the country, that everybody has to reach. In a family also it happens that if one brother is doing extremely well and if the other brother is not doing well, there is a great amount of jealousy. And at some point the division happens, and not only division, there is acrimony. There is jealousy, there is hatred, there is acrimony. So this may happen in the country. And before that happens, the task of the father, just like in family, the task of the father is to see that everybody progresses. Similarly, the task of our central leadership is to see that all states should progress at the same level. Otherwise, this type of regional disparity is going to cause us tremendous amount of the problem in decades to come. We may not be there, but the country will have issues.
So, as you are telling about China's infrastructure development, which you said has already overtaken that of European nations. So in India, especially since you also happen to trace your genesis from Mithila, that is an integral part of Bihar as of now. So the flood crisis that year after year the people of Mithila face, and there is no remedy available at site. So as you said that the river's water from Yangtze, is being taken to Yangho. So is here also, even from time to time, we keep on hearing about the so-called river uplinking project to take the water from the area which happens to be inundated by flood into those areas which suffer from drought. But experts say that it is absolutely not feasible so far as Indian topographical nature or pattern is concerned. So do you think that as it was implemented in China, that water could be taken from one river to another, is it feasible somehow that water can be taken, excessive water can be taken from Mithila to other parts of the country which is suffering from drought? For instance, Gujarat, we can say that the Kutch area or some sub area like that. Is this can be a pragmatic solution to this burning issue that afflicts our region in Mithila part of Bihar?
It's very difficult to say, give any answer offhand. But in Gujarat, for example, it has indeed happened that we have transferred water intra-basin. The Narmada Basin water has been transferred almost 1,000 kilometers plus from South Gujarat, from Narmada Sarovar Dam to Kutch area. And right now in Kutch, for example, yesterday I had the Kutch they have developed the Kesar variety of mangoes, which were practically impossible earlier because Kutch was a desert. But there they have developed kesar mangoes, and there they had developed some of the best quality of khajurs, which was just not thought earlier. So it has happened in Gujarat to some extent, but the water from North Bihar, I mean, somehow some engineering solution has to be found out. I mean, I'm not a technical engineer, I'm not a hydrological expert, but it cannot happen that year after year, I mean, decades after decades, we are having the same thing. See, I mean, my father tells me that Kamla River, we come from Madhubani, that Kamla Nadi, Kamla Balan, there used to be flood that time and the water had entered into our house. That I'm talking of 1930s, early 1930s. And the same thing we are hearing right now also. So, I mean, human ingenuity has to find out the solution. And it cannot be that it is not there. Kamla, Koshi, every year it happens. And it's happening, it has happened in China also, and there also they have found. See, the country is going to, the world in fact is going to have water problem. Brahmaputra, for example. China is making many such dams over Brahmaputra. So at some point, there may not be enough water in Brahmaputra. So the eastern India will have to, I mean, eastern Bihar or northern Bihar will have to try to find out some way out. Mekong River, for example, which is supplying to most of the Southeast Asia, China is having another 8 or 10 dams they are adding to it. Indus River, for example, which flows up to Karachi and all, it has almost dried up in the lower reaches. It is not reaching the lower reaches all the time. So the next war, as our population is growing and as our demands for consumable articles are growing, and as industrialization of I mean, which is not very sustainable right now, is growing. So the demand on water will be there. This time we had demand even on oxygen, which we felt during our COVID. So demand on water is going to be there, and the next wars. For example, if China blocks Brahmaputra, what else India will do? India will have to find out a way out. There will be global amount of tension. For example, if China blocks Mekong River, the Mekong River flow happens. What happens to Cambodia, for example, which about 3 million or I mean almost 3 to 4 million people are depending on the water flowing from there on the Tonle Sap and the Mekong River. So those are going to be problems all around. So water, which is, I mean, easily available in North Bihar, is not being utilized. And I mean, I remember I had discussed with you earlier also. For example, one of my workers who used to work with me in Junagadh, I mean, I'm talking of the early 1990s, used to work with me in Junagadh. He came to, I mean, I had taken him to my village. When he crossed the Ganga bridge, he was wonderstruck. He had never seen so much water. He had never seen so much water, so much broad water, because in Gujarat there is no water. And Sabarmati water used to be very narrow, and there used to be no water till the time that we have put barrage on Sabarmati. There was no water in Sabarmati. There is no perennial flowing river except for Narmada. So when we saw the Ganga river, he was literally wondrous, like so much water. And then he felt so much water flowing to the sea. Why are we not able to utilize that water? So North India has to try to utilize North Bihar, North India, the entire Gangetic plain has to think of much better ways. And in the coming years, we are going to do that. We are, I mean, going to utilize the water in the best possible fashion. And in North Bihar, the flood prone areas have to be taken. We are losing so much in the country. We are losing so much. The state is losing, the country is losing.
Thank you, sir, for your take on this, for your enlightened views. Sir, your stint as a collector of Junagadh, with a special focus on Sri Lal Krishna Advani's Yatra in 1990s, where there was some sort of riot, and you managed to find way out, and the solution could be found, and the riot was quelled. So, even as the capacity of a collector in Junagadh, you also earned a medal of the best collector. Twice you earned the medal for being the best collector, and you were also nominated to get it for the third time, but somehow it was banned, or it was prohibited. So, sir, your take on this, how did you, and with what sort of foresightedness and sort of visionary skills of a collector, you managed to prevail over such a inflammatory situation that came up on account of Lal Krishna Advaniji's Rath Yatra?
Vivekanand ji, I can still recollect in the early 90s, 91, 92, when this Rath Yatra started, it was quite, I should say, quite an emotional scene over there. For me also, from Somnath, the Rath was to go. So it was interesting, also emotional, also, that yes, we are doing something for, I mean, some temple, a temple in Ayodhya, which was Ram's birthplace, where it was not being done. But we had also not imagined that it will lead to problems in initially in Gujarat and in many parts of the country, and we had also not imagined that it will lead to a very good solution, very peaceful solution ultimately, which has happened right now. So that time, of course, by the time this Babri structure was demolished, when the ultimately the Rath Yatra, though of course it was stopped in Samastipur, but somehow or other after that it happened. So it when the Babri structure was demolished, so it led to a large amount of problems in the Junagadh district. And in Junagadh district, there are Hindus and there are Muslims. Both of them are living side by side in Somnath, in Verawal, as well as in Junagadh town proper. And it led to a good amount of communal situation. But because of her foresight, where I was informed, and I could also foresee that these things will happen. So we had discussed, called all of them. We met all the Hindus and Muslim leaders. We told them that something is happening in Ayodhya. Because of that, you should not get disturbed over here. Let's not fight with each other because of that. Something which has happened, and if at all you want to do anything, go there and do fighting over there rather than doing fight over there. So overall, and with increasing the police bandobast, and at the same time trying to talk to, keeping our dialogue open with everybody. And the collector's office was open throughout the day, throughout day and night, along with and all the offices were open, so that nobody should feel that we are not being taken care of, or we are not being heard. So of course, the Muslim community, the minority community came and gave good amount of protest, and they held dharnas and all, and they gave protest memorandum. So that was accepted. And yes, we forwarded it also. The Hindu community also tried to, but we also tried to celebrate that, but we somehow quelled that situation. We did not allow that situation, that satisfaction type of thing, to come in a big way. And on the whole, the situation was kept under control. There was some sort of friction here and there, but no death, not even a single death was allowed there.
In fact, a very good, very interesting incident happened there in Junagadh, that is pertaining to one Patel Bapu, that took an ugly turn again, and a communal conflagration was about to happen. You very skillfully and with all sorts of sagacity, you managed to prevail over that particular situation, that very tense situation. Sir, could you please elaborate to our viewers, how did you manage to prevail over that inflammatory or that sort of conflagration which was about to happen had you not shown your sagacious leadership of that particular that district of Junagadh?
See, Vivekanand ji, there are two hillocks in Junagadh. One is the hillock where Amba Devi, Mahamba Mata is there, and the Jain temples are also there. Another hillock is the Datar Bapu is there. Now, Datar, there is a controversy about the origin of Datar. Datar, some Hindus used to say that it is Dattatreya, and the Muslim used to say that there is a Datar Bapu, there is a Majar of Datar Pir. So there is a controversy about whose temple it is or whose religious place is it. And there was also a controversy about the Patel Bapu, who was the Mujahid or the Peer of that particular place. So to Hindus, that fellow also was an old person, a very religious person. But to Hindus, he used to say that I'm a Hindu. To Muslims, he used to say that I'm a Muslim. And the name Patel is a thing, it's a honorific actually. So Muslims can also be called Patel, Hindus can also be Patel. So both Hindus and Muslims used to think that they are their, he's their person. Unfortunately, during my time itself, he had to pass away. So he passed away, and after that, the Muslim said that he will be sort of buried there. And Patel Bapu, he said that he is to be, Antim Vidhi is to be as per the Hindu Vidhi Praman. So Hindu Vidhi, what do you do? Hindu Vidhi, he can be, the mortal remains can be burned. So we had decided that his mortal remains will be brought down and it will be burnt below the hillside. But the Hindus, the religious fanatic leaders, they said no, that as per the sadhu, since he is a sadhu, therefore he cannot be burned. His body has to be interred there and his body has to be buried. So as per some of the sadhus are doing that particular of Naga sadhus and also his body. By the time, I mean, it was sleight of hand by our Hindu leaders, but somehow once again the Muslims were extremely agitated. And as you said about my personality, I mean, it was literally like I had to keep a slab of ice on my head, be cool, be 100% cool, keep everything open. Hear about the Muslim telling that you have sold out our interest to everyone. So keep all those things and be peaceful. Do not allow the things to turn ugly. Keep all the strong, the police bandobas. I had not called the army, but we had the special police forces over there, the armed police, and they were doing constant bandobas and all. And then we deputed one Hindu officer and one Muslim officer to go and to be over there, and they would represent the government over there. So both Hindu and Muslim, they continued there for about a few years, and after that only the situation quelled and the situation came to much better. It's now peaceful now. So it is a very tough situation to our times, and the administrator, you cannot get help from anyone. It is spur of the moment that you have to take a decision. The decision, supposing I had started firing over there from the hilltop, hundreds of people could have died. So one has to sort of be flexible. One cannot be totally deciding that, yes, this is what I'm going to do. One has to be flexible, do as per the needs of the hour. And at that point, nobody is going to tell you what to do. Everybody will tell that, yes, you are there at the site and you have to decide according to what is best possible. And yes, by the grace of God, I was able to, handle that situation peacefully.
Sir, had you not been cool, temperamentally or temperamental wise as you are, then obviously the situation was very tricky. It was very treacherous. And if at all your decision would have gone wrong, you would have ended up as a scapegoat, as a sacrificial goat at the altar of or the religious conflagration, religious or communal violence. As simple as that.
Absolutely, you are very correct. After that also, both the communities felt that I have not given them the best, that they have been, cheated out. But you have to listen. It does not, if one is very egoistic as a district magistrate, then, you would not listen to what those everybody is telling that you have not done properly, you have not taken care of our interests. I could have said, go to hell and all. But those things, if you do that, then the people get irritated, feel cheated, and then they recourse to other extra constitutional means, extra judicial, or what you can say, extra governmental things. So you should try to hear them out. You should never close the doors of communications with anybody. That is one of the fundamental things I learned, that you should always keep the communication channels open, directly communication channel, indirectly. So I had got many other indirect communication channels also in both the communities, and they were also all the time telling both the groups that keep the situation under control, keep it under control. And that's why wiser councils ultimately prevailed and things cooled down. Things are still cooled down as far as that issue is concerned.
Sir, when you have been explaining all that, the situation in Junagadh, then all of a sudden it struck my mind in course of one of the conversations with Honorable Sri Surendra Kulkarni ji, an illustrious advisor to Sri Vajpayee. He was telling me that both Hindus and Muslims have to stay in the country together. And your handling of that very, very critical situation can be taken as a case study at a macro level. It happened at a microcosmic level, which can be applied at a macrocosmic level as well. So what do you think on this, sir? Because both Hindus and Muslims have to coexist. There is no other way out. And given the sort of differences that we have today, how it can be breached is only through application of your, your ability to deal with such a critical situation in a very, very sagacious way, in a very, very skillful way. If the same can be applied at a macro level, I think the situation which appears to be so very burning and so very cataclysmic can be adequately dealt with if there is a sagacious leadership, as you exhibited, then can be taken care of at the broader national level. Your take on this, sir?
See, the leadership has to be, firstly, both sides should have trust in the leadership. They should feel that leadership is, in a way, they are not biased. They are dealing with giving both the sides good treatment, equal treatment. So there has to be faith in the leadership. And secondly, the leadership, the communication channel has to be kept open always, always. So you should try to explain as to why something happened, so why it happened in the best possible fashion, why this is the best possible way, why, for example, I think, for example, let me give a contemporary example. The agriculture bills, I think they are very good bills. But what I feel could have been done is to explain to the farmers as to why these bills are good. I mean, that communication channel, and particularly it has to be kept open as to keep on explaining why it has to be, and give examples. Give examples in some of the states that because this has happened and so many good things have happened. I mean, so many good things have happened if you follow this, or can happen if you follow this. So this has to be, that dialogue has to be kept open all the time, and nobody should feel that the leadership has a closed mind. So there has to be some give and take, some flexibility. So those things have to be, according to me, I mean, I'm talking from a state government's perspective. At the country level, maybe the things are different, but from the state government perspective, I feel that the people should have faith that you are going to deal them a good hand, and you are going to treat them equally. That's why there is a faith in judiciary. Why does everybody have a faith in judiciary? Because people still feel that the judiciary will treat them equally, the judges will treat them equally after hearing both sides. So that is what the faith should have in the executive government. If people have faith, then there will be less trouble actually.
Thank you, sir. Now, actually, I'm coming to your tenure as the Chief Secretary of Gujarat, which has been indeed very, very illustrious, because I may be biased in my own assessment or my evaluation, but I feel that possibly Gujarat might not get such an illustrious Chief Secretary as your honored self presided over the great state of Gujarat. Please tell us that how in course of your, I think more than 3 years, or about 3 years of your tenure as the Chief Secretary of the state, how you took all the conflicting interests together, the different stakeholders, who might not be on parity with each other, but as a policy maker, or as a man to implement the policies of the government, on the forefront of implementing the policies, how you took all these conflicting or even at times vested interests together in terms of implementing the government policies on so many issues, coordinating with all the departments which might have been at loggerheads with each other, and how you finally succeeded by way of implementing those policies. Sir, your take on this in the capacity of the Chief Secretary of Gujarat, the longest Chief Secretary of Gujarat.
See, Vivekanandji, for example, Gujarat, during my tenure earlier also, it has continued to be leader in industrialization. It has continued to be leader in attracting maximum foreign direct investments. It has, but we did not limit ourselves to that. We were equally conscious that at some point we were not that well. I mean, we were not the leaders in health and education. And that's why, as Chief Secretary, it was my very conscious attempt to see that in the field of socials, I mean, social fields also of health and education, we should continue to do extremely well. And we did manage to do very well in the health and education, in education, for example, and health both. We reached the rank of third or fourth in the country. And it was our consistent, persistent aim that we should try to be better than Kerala also in health, and try to be better than Delhi and even Kerala or some other state, Tamil Nadu, for example, in education. So this was our constant endeavor that we should try to do that. Now you have talked about the conflicting interest between the various departments, and at time between the various levels of polity. So once again, it is in government, it is always the consensual approach. If the government follow the consensual policy, that talking to everybody and discussing it in a transparent fashion with everybody as to what, and once you deal with everybody in a transparent fashion, then people feel that yes, this is what is correct, this is what is not correct. So what I used to do in the committee of secretaries, I used to discuss with the secretaries that this is his view, this is her view, or I mean the different views of the different department, and because of this, I mean, elicit both the points, and then you can ask some other people to also give their opinion. And finally, we could take a consensual view and then take it to the political bosses that this is the overall view of the department. And because we all feel like that, it's an overall view, consensual view, and you should accept it. And practically in 99% of the cases, the political bosses did agree to the consensual view of the bureaucrats, because all of us had the same goal to work for the development of the state. So that way, see, I mean, I'll also tell you about some of the other conflicting things. For example, And because they are, I mean, if the things are conflicting, but if you assure the people that what we are doing is in the overall interest, people do help. Everybody, the basic nature of everybody is, I should say, altruistic. That is what I have got a positive opinion about everybody, that people in general want to be of helpful. For example, we had to take Narmada Canal, and the Narmada Canal through North Gujarat. The land acquisition was extremely difficult, but we were able to convince people that once this canal passes, then the land cost there will be increased manyfold, and everybody would benefit. But the farmers whose land were taken, they were certainly going to be less benefited, but they will also benefit. And once you pose the question to everybody, there used to be village level meeting, there used to be taluka level meeting, there used to be district level meetings. And if you take the thing systematically through with everyone, then everybody feels happy about it. They feel that yes, if they are getting good amount of money, they should help in the development of the state rather than proving hindrance. So once again, I mean, this can happen across the board to anyone. If you do something in a transparent, consensual manner, if you explain to the people as to why you are doing, then people would like to help. See, in Gujarat, there is another policy. When you develop, and unfortunately, this is not that which I am finding in Patna. If you have to build a new colony, what the government does is to, I mean, announce a development plan for, I mean, that particular area. You develop a development plan, then about 40% of the land, government says that I'll take from all the individual survey number holders over there, 40%. And everybody's, they will be, in return, they will be given 60%. And what does the government do with the 40%? They would construct roads. I mean, they would make the roads over there. They would construct common areas over there, like park, like your maybe schools and other things. And 40. So what happens? Everybody individually is getting now only 60%, but their 60%, price of their 60% is compared to the earlier 100%, 200%. So they are benefiting, and the roads are there. So the roads in any of the colonies that you go in Ahmedabad or Surat or anywhere, they are quite broad. Whereas if you go to any colony road in many parts of Bihar, in Patna and all, you are seeing narrow roads, because no town, I mean, no development approach was there. And because everybody in their own narrow selfish interest, they took their boundary to the last level. So the roads have become very narrow. And had the roads been broad, then the land cost would have increased multifold. So you are not, in fact, losing 40%. You are getting double or triple of that amount which you had earlier given. So that there the government has to come in. And then again, people have to trust the government, that government has been doing a good thing. Government cannot play partial over there. So somebody who has got land in front should not be given land in the back. So, I mean, there has to be, and Gujarat and Maharashtra also have been doing this thing throughout. And because they have been doing this throughout, the town development plans and the town development schemes have become very popular over there. People, the minute a town development scheme is announced somewhere, the land prices start rising, because everybody feels that they will be getting benefiting from this. And the government constructs road, and then the government also takes some land, about 10% or so, and then it auctions that land and benefits from that, and from that amount they are able to develop the roads and all. So all in all, these are all things which are happening in one part of the country. The best things should be adopted in the other part of the country, and the entire country should benefit in this way.
Yes, sir, one thing I would like to say in this very context, as you just advocated or espoused, as to how the developmental plans were taken afoot, especially in Gujarat and Maharashtra, and how the roads are very broad. So, given the fact that we already have set a precedent, maybe there might be other states too. But as you said, let us take the example of these two, the Gujarat and Maharashtra. Then, if the people also are benefited along with that of the government or the state. So why not it becomes a paradigm for the other states, other backward states like Bihar, other laggard states to follow
it's a paradigm, and wherever now, and I think Patna also, Bihar also is trying to do that now. See, I mean, I don't know how familiar you are with Patna roads and all. For example, if you go to Bahadurpur colony, which is just next to our Rajendra colony, there the roads, because it's a private colony and the roads are very narrow. So example, the two vehicles cannot pass in many areas inside the colony, and it's quite a well, I mean, the colony is, many rich people are there. But because people are selfish in their own nature, and that they are not guided by overall common interest, and there is nobody, no person to facilitate or to authorize get that thing done. So government has to take that role. The urban development authorities have to be very, very proactive in all these things, and that is how these things will prosper. So
Sir, one more thing. The next question, it comes automatically to my mind, though you had already thrown a light on it in our webinar. Sir, what should be the role of a chief secretary? Because chief secretary is the chief secretary of the state, not of the chief minister or the prime minister. Now, in case if there is some sort of differences of opinion or some sort of cold vibe which prevails between the PM and the CM, and chief secretary is trapped between the devil and the blue sea, like as it happened in case of West Bengal's chief the retired chief secretary now, but incumbent advisor to the chief minister, when he was trapped between the prime minister and the chief minister, and say he has been blamed for having taken side, especially with the chief minister, because he has been working with her, and consequently the prime ministerial dignity was very much infringed. And there was a big hue and cry over it. As a chief secretary, Dr. Sopandas Gupta sir, in course of our webinar, had sought your erudite opinion on it, and you gave your opinion. Now, my question is, if you were the chief secretary, as I have seen you, having such a cordial relationship with that of the incumbent Honorable Chief Minister of Gujarat, Sri Rupani ji. Sir, if, say for instance, if Sri Rupani ji would not, I'm just discussing about a hypothetical question. If Sri Rupani ji would not have been on good terms with Honorable Prime Minister, and you being closely liaising or working with the Chief Minister, if the same situation would have been replicated in Gujarat, how you could have insulated yourself from that particular trap? Because if the same situation would be in Gujarat, how would you have dealt with it, sir? Your take on this?
See, for example, you have very clearly said that we are working with the hypothesis that the chief secretary is quite close to the chief minister at that point of time. If he is close, he must explain to him or her in a totally informal manner, not at that point at the heat of the moment, but informally, that when the prime minister is coming, he is not coming as head of the opposition party. He is coming there as head of the country, the executive head of the country. And it is in the interest of a state, not only in the interest of political party, it's in the interest of a state as a whole, which is, headed by the chief minister of the state. Executive head of the state is the chief minister. It's in the interest of the state to listen to the executive head of the country. And you can say that, Madam or Sir Chief Minister, you can have a political protest by you walking out. But you should allow the state's interest to be not to be passed out or not to be passed over, and you should very coolly allow me to present the things, present the paper, or present, for example, in the case of West Bengal, present the memorandum to the Prime Minister. So let the protest also be there by the chief minister walking out or chief minister not being in the meeting, but let the chief secretary and the other secretaries continue to be in that particular meeting and to present before the prime minister, not as the head of a political party, but because he is the executive head of the country. So, that depends on to what extent the chief secretary is able to convince the chief minister, and he must do that. And he should be able to do that. He should be able to prevail that, yes, your authority or your political interests are also being served by you walking out. But the political interest is served, but the interest of the state is served by chief secretary being there and making the presentation before the prime minister. So that's a very delicate thing, but the chief secretaries have to know that, have to learn that.
Sir, fantastic. Your elucidation has been simply fantastic. Sir, your message, because this is a message, because we are already coming to an end of the session. So please, sir, because this is a COVID situation, a cataclysmic, a humongous crisis has bedeviled the entire world. And the students community are absolutely just groping in dark because they don't have any solution. The civil service aspirants are preparing day in and day out, but they also do not seem to have much of clues. So since being an experienced civil servant, being one of the best IAS officers, India will ever remember you. Your temperament that has Gujarat can showcase. I
Thank you.
believe fundamentally that Gujarat too can showcase, any time for even for future, the chief secretary's perspective, chief secretary's temperamental, mindset, which definitely has been some sort of, which can be institutionalized in Gujarat and across India. So what would be your message to the would-be IAS officers, IAS aspirants, as to how to deal with the so many delicate situations that might keep on evolving in their career track? So your message to the students community, to the IAS aspirants, sir.
Let me once again give some broad ideas to the aspirants. See, I am reading these days about the Chinese history. And very interestingly, in Chinese history also, ever since the Han time, that is almost till 200 BC, 200 BC Vivekananda, there has been imperial exams. The exams were conducted on the basis of Confucian knowledge and the knowledge of poetry and all, but there was a written meritocratic system, and they used to sit for 3 days almost in a cubicle, and for 3 days they would sit an exam. So China had an exam system for almost 2000 years. Of course, later it got modified and more stratified and more strengthened and all. Vietnam, Korea, all of them had exams for getting into the imperial services. Why? And why were students from all over the country in those countries also? Why was this supposed to be a very important thing? Because it used to be the foremost means for upward social mobility. For upward social mobility, as in case of India, in many states of India, this particular thing is one of the means for upward social mobility. In Bihar, in relatively less developed states, this is a very important thing. In more developed states of country, there are many other means of social upward mobility, but in some of the states, this is the only means actually. This is the most important means for upward social mobility. So that is why civil services, particularly for those students who are coming from relatively less developed state of our country, for them it is extremely important, not only for their upward mobility, but for the upward social mobility for their entire family and extended family also. Because once you are in a good position, you are able to, by your inspiration, by your example, and by directly helping, you are also helping your friends and relatives, and there is nothing wrong in that if you help them, if you help them in a right manner. That is why I insist that all the aspirants who are studying must take these exams in an extremely serious manner. This is not only what India was doing, this is what everybody else anywhere in the world is doing. And in India, because lakhs and lakhs of students are doing. So if you are serious and you don't have many other means of doing much better in life, so please, please, please take these exams extremely seriously and put in your best possible effort. Put in your best possible effort. Try to read in the first round only from the source books, initial source books. Don't go for Kunji and other shortcuts. Do very serious study and do at least 2 or 3 revisions. Try to write down answers. Try to make your speed, what is your writing speed and all. See, knowledge is one thing. The examination, taking of exam, how you are writing paper, that is the process of exam is also another thing. So you have to have knowledge and you have to do good at the process of exam as well. So both the things have to be there. So those students, and once again, I'm telling my fellow, countrymen, and particularly from those who are coming from relatively less developed part of the country, give your best possible, and God be with you. My best wishes always.
Thank you, sir. So in fact, dear viewers, you have been hearing one of the best bureaucrats of this country, Dr. Sri Jain Singh, sir, whom I consider, whom I look upon as an icon, not only for myself, but for the entire civil servants community. Because sir has in fact set up, a golden precedent by, being such a fair man, a man without even a single blemish in his career, in his illustrious career. I have seen how Chief Minister, the incumbent Chief Minister Sri Vijay Rupani ji, has been souring his affection on sir because of his extreme meritorious nature because of his being, really a meritorious IAS officer. So sir has given us a lot of tips today, not only in terms of qualifying in IAS examination, but even in terms of dealing with his very, his myriad career activities. And let me inform all the viewers that especially, for the Biharis and for the UPites, those who are celebrating Chhat Puja in Ahmedabad and other parts of Gujarat like Surat, sir, during his tenure of chief secretaryship, he had constructed, ghats near the banks of Sabarmati, and he persuaded the government to construct it for Biharis and UPites. That has been a tremendous contribution for the community to which he belongs. And that's why I have a special reverence for this, really, the man I salute. His vision I salute, his mission I salute, his overall tenure as an IAS officer throughout his career, culminating in that of the chief secretaryship of the state. I salute him because I saw him from a very close quarter. His tenure as the chief secretary of one of the most prosperous and developed state of the union. Now, my dearest, viewers, on next Saturday, we are going to invite another one of the best CEOs of our country, Sri Sanjay Mehta ji, who will grace and bless us. But today we have had a great electrifying session with our honorable sir. Sir, I take all your interaction with you with my head bowed down. I say with tremendous sense of humility and of course with a greater sense of confidence that you electrified our today's session. You shared all your success story, because the people who share their own stories, which is not perceived to be that much successful, are not adequately received by the viewers or by anyone whom that story is being told. But if a man who himself has written the success story, as I already said in the beginning, while introducing one of the bureaucrats, Dr. Sri Jagdeep Narayan Singh ji, who is so affectionately referred to as JN in the bureaucratic circle in Gujarat. He has written a success story, really, I wouldn't say unprecedented, but nevertheless a brilliant success story for all the IAS fraternity and other bureaucrats of lesser categories to follow in his glorious precedents. And sir, I would like to tell you here, I have written the book, The Living Legends of Mithila, where I could encapsulate only, a microscopic details of your life. Your entire glorious life is to be written in the meticulous details, and I am there to write again by the grace of divine sometime in the future. So I salute you with my head down. Down. I take your blessings for our viewers today. And my dear viewers, once again, after expressing my deepest thanks to sir, because sir is the equivalent of Mahendra Singh Dhoni. This is without an iota of exaggeration, without myself even appearing to be remotely hyperbolic. I would like to say that he is really Mahendra Singh Dhoni. In course of my interaction with him, I have seen, I must conclude with this, that, he is the only man on whose retirement I wrote a farewell, article. Because when I visited Sardar Patel Bhavan, I could see his colleagues, those who had their tears in their eyes, because they all confided in me that his successors may not prove to be equally a good man as he is, because never ever he insulted anyone. Sankara's brilliant espousal in the century of verses, mind not intellect, nor ego, mind not intellect, nor ego feeling, sky nor earth nor metal am I am he, blessed spirit I am he. No birth, no death, no caste have I, father, mother have I none. I am he, blessed spirit I am he. Beyond the flight of fancy, formless am I, permeating the limbs of all life. Bondage I do not fear, for I am free, ever free. I am he, blessed spirit I am he. Sir is a man sans ego. I have seldom seen anybody who can match him from the point of view of being absolutely egoless. So this is, you have seen, and I pray to the Lord and pray to I wish that Honorable Prime Minister and his government should avail the benefits of this great man's vision, his expertise, and we are looking forward to him, serving the nation sometime in the immediate future.
Thank you.
With these words, I bid all my viewers a farewell, again with a further commitment to meet on next Saturday with another jewel, that is Sri Sanjay Mehtaji, one of the best CEOs of country. Thanks to all my viewers. Thanks once again, my respected, our revered Dr. Sri Jain Singh sir, our beloved, from the core of my heart, bottom of heart. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks.